A full trailer for HBO's Dune Prophecy has just been released, so in this video we will explore what we saw in the trailer.
Watch now.
It starts off with a Bene Gesserit voice saying, "Watch now," which kind of threw me off and I found kind of gimmicky, but it is what it is. We start off looking at a planet which could be where the Bene Gesserit reside. And the two needles seem to be a motif that mirrors what the Bene Gesserit use with their Gom Jabbar tests and their other needle-like devices. And we can hear Valia Harkonnen say that the Sisterhood draws women from many worlds. So it's a multicultural group of women from all walks of life, and that's why we see these women who are portraying these sisters from all walks of life, such as Taboo and Jihai. Then we get to see a Highliner in the sky above a planet. And what we have to realize is that this is set 10,000 years before the Highliners we have seen in Dune Parts 1 and 2. So technology should appear older and different to what we have seen or what we are used to. So it seems more square-like, not as refined in shape. But it does give you that feeling that we got from Dune Parts 1 and 2, so it kind of tries to emulate the movies, and again this is trying to marry the series with the films. So they want to secure the throne by placing a Bene Gesserit on the throne. That's what they're trying to do here. Or at least have the Bene Gesserit beside the one who is on the throne, so she can manipulate the throne from the shadows. And we get to see scenes at a dinner table, which gives me the impression of a banquet, a scene we sadly didn't get in the Dune movies. And this dinner table scene gives that feeling of political intrigue which we were missing and which we wanted to see in the movies. So we might get this type of scene in the Dune Prophecy series. And I hope that this will be the strongest element of the series, political intrigue.
I'm surrounded by vipers.
We had Valia saying that the great houses fight for control, and Mark Strong's character, the Emperor, says he's surrounded by vipers. So all this could be that fascinating political intrigue that we would hope to get from something related to Dune. Then we see a rainy scene with Bene Gesserits in hoods, similar to what we saw in Dune Part 1. And again, it's that trying to emulate the movies in the series so that they match each other as close as possible. Then we have Tula Harkonnen saying there are secrets we have gone great lengths to keep, which could be an indication of a secret such as the relation between the sandworm and the spice. That could be a possible secret. Or the secret of them being able to unlock genetic memories from their female ancestors. We get to see Indian actress Taboo in several scenes in the trailer, and I hope she's given more of a prominent role in this series. There's a scene where she actually meets the Emperor himself, so that should be interesting. We see possibly one of my favourite shots in this whole trailer, which is this kind of seaport, which is beautifully done, looks realistic, gives you that sense of world building, that same size and scale that we enjoyed in Dune Parts 1 and 2, and even that kind of Game of Thrones feel when they go to Braavos for the first time. We get to see this kind of nightclub scene, as I mentioned in my previous breakdown of the teaser trailer, and I rightly pointed out that the person that Princess Inez was with is her brother, Constantine Carino, played by Josh Houston. Then we get to see some male Harkonnens. We get to see Edward Davis as Harrow Harkonnen, and he wears an interesting item of clothing. The symbol on this clasp looks very similar to the symbol of the Harkonnens from Dune Parts 1 and 2. So they're clearly trying to keep similarities between the film and the series. There's also Mark Addy who plays a Harkonnen, and he was actually in Game of Thrones, who played Robert Baratheon. So it's nice to see some Game of Thrones cast appearing in Dune Prophecy. So in the series they're very much aware that the worm exists on Arrakis. And we actually get to see a sandworm, which is pretty cool, and they look very similar in design to the Dune movies. And somehow it's showing the Emperor having a dream or a vision where a palace or some kind of imperial complex built out of sand crumbles and collapses due to the sandworm. And it's almost like a foreboding that the sandworms are going to be something that could potentially destroy the Imperium. And this perhaps links to prophecy, which is what the series is based on. We get to see a lot more of Travis Fimmel's character, Desmond Hart. And his character seems to be the most strange, the most elusive, and could potentially have huge consequences for this series. It's a character that isn't in the book, but who seems to wield a great amount of power. What that power is, I cannot say, but I can theorize based on what this trailer is giving us.
What do you want?
To wipe out every trace of the sisters from our world.
He quite clearly hates the Bene Gesserit and wants to see them fall. He also says that he's the only one who can tell the Emperor the truth. It seems that Desmond Hart's character is going to be the main adversary against the Bene Gesserit in the show. He also says, "I have been gifted a great power." And this kind of reminds me of a character which comes much later in the books, who also gained power. And it's very reminiscent of Miles Tegg from the later Dune books, who was also a Bashar, just like Desmond Hart's character. So perhaps they're drawing inspiration from Miles Tegg. If it's not similar to that character, perhaps Desmond Hart is a Kwisatz Haderach who would have been, but is not quite a Kwisatz Haderach. Because the character Desmond Hart is such a mystery, it's hard to say his function in the series or how he will be involved. He could play a huge part of the show, but it's not one that I would be able to tell you about because it's not even in the Sisterhood of Dune book. So he could prove to be a very special character in the series, and it's just nice to see Travis Fimmel returning to sci-fi after Raised by Wolves was cancelled. We see a character with a diamond on the forehead, and this is a Sook Doctor from the Dune universe, someone who has Sook conditioning, which means that they are loyal and they cannot be broken. One infamous Sook Doctor was, of course, Dr. Yui, whose Sook conditioning was broken, but this is the first female Sook Doctor that we have seen, if you don't count the Dune Imperium books that have portrayed female Sook Doctors. So it's nice to see a Sook Doctor in the series, and this could be an indication that they're going to focus on different factions in the Dune universe, such as the Tleilaxu, Chom, the Guild Navigators, etc., which would be really interesting to see because we were lacking these things in the Dune movies. We see really hauntingly beautiful shots of visions and dream sequences, which is hopefully going to be a prevalent theme in the series itself. So there should be many creative shots like this. We see Josh Houston again as Constantine Carino, looking more mature this time in his Imperial attire. And we get to see the Emperor's soldiers, perhaps an earlier version of the Sardaukar. We get to see Kieran Atreides looking pretty banged up, perhaps by the Emperor's soldiers simply because he's been fooling around with Princess Inez. So I'm getting a sense of these typical story tropes that we are used to seeing. I hope they'll get more creative with the writing. We get to see destroyed machines, which could be evidence of the Butlerian Jihad, the fight against thinking machines. And this looks like a scrap heap of the destroyed machines which they are repurposing for their aircraft or building structures. We also see Princess Inez looking more serious, just like her brother, and she also is an exceptional fighter in this series. The way she can swing a sword and fight off her enemies is pretty impressive. We also see more of Shalom Broom Franklin's character, who is a Fremen, and it seems that her costume is a repurposed Fremen stillsuit. You can see bits of it look like the leather strapping of a stillsuit, and that may be a conscious decision by the costume department to show that she is still a Fremen at heart, but that she used her suit, which she no longer needs on Arrakis, to use it as an outfit for her day-to-day use off the planet. And these scenes of a girl surrounded by these figures, they look like the female ancestors in a spice trance. But this doesn't look like it's going so well, and perhaps this is what it looks like when someone fails, which probably results in their death. We see a young Valia being able to control the voice and stop people in their tracks. We also see an older Valia in a meeting with Desmond Hart being able to control him and force him to withdraw his blade. Perhaps this will be a show of strength on the Bene Gesserit's part to stop him from interfering and trying to be an adversary to them. But of course Valia won't kill him, but she will demonstrate that she has the power to do so. We also see a Gom Jabbar needle similar to the needle we saw in Dune Part 1. There's also a scene with a bull, which I think is going to be a dream sequence or vision, and the bull looks similar to the bull from Dune Part 1, the head of a bull that killed Paul's grandfather in a bullfight, and his name was Duke Paulus Atreides.
I run a school for young women. We're not a threat to anyone.
And then she proceeds to show that she's definitely a threat because she has the ability to kill. So it does seem that the show has some intriguing values to it. So far, it's looking okay. I'm still cautiously optimistic about the show. We now know the release date is going to be November the 17th, so I'll be covering this on the channel. Stay tuned for that. But what do you think about the trailer? Did the trailer impress you? Are you worried or excited about the show? Let me know in the comments. Check out some of my other Dune content or some of my other popular culture videos here.